What's up, guys? Welcome back to Between the Pylons. My name's John Camacho. Thank you so much for watching. And guys, today we are talking about the New Orleans Saints 2021 draft class. I'm going to be breaking down all of the guys that were drafted in the first 3 rounds. I'll talk about some of the trades, all the draft value. I really get into nerdy stuff like that, like draft value and all these other things. Try and dissect every aspect of their draft class. Before we get into all that, we're going to put up the list of their entire draft class. But before we do that, if you don't mind hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel if you enjoy this content, all of those things, very, very appreciated. But let's get right into it here with the draft class as a whole. And when you look at it, as I said, I'm going to break down the first 3 rounds, but just an overall theme of their draft class, needs. I mean, they plugged needs. You look at Peyton Turner replacing a Trey Hendrickson in the first round. You look at a Pete Warner probably replacing an Alex Anzalone who moved on. You look at Paulson Adebo, I'm not going to sit here and say he's replacing one specific player, but they've had a need at that cornerback 2 position for a while. I feel like they've had a lot of different guys in there trying to plug that hole, and it hasn't worked. Got Paulson Adebo, another guy that they're hoping to plug that hole with. As far as their 4th round pick, they take an Ian Book in the 4th round. That was a shock to me. I didn't expect Ian Book to go anywhere near the 4th round. To be honest, I thought he had a good chance to go undrafted. I'll be perfectly frank with you. I didn't expect that, especially for the Saints, where you look, they got Trevor Siemian, who they brought in free agency to be that kind of backup role. I like him as a backup. I'm good with that. Jameis Winston, to me, slots in as a starter. Obviously, there's the Taysom Hill conversation. Maybe Taysom Hill wins that job. I think it will be a camp battle and all those things. But even I look at Taysom Hill as a gadget guy. He doesn't even have to be a quarterback. So them bringing 3 quarterbacks on the roster, that's not a surprise at all, right? Because Taysom Hill, he's a wide receiver, a tight end. Like he's a mystery box a little bit. But are you really gonna have 4 quarterbacks on your roster? Is Ian Book gonna beat out Trevor Siemian? I don't think so. Maybe he does. I don't know. But hey, we'll see. Sean Payton is, in my personal opinion, an offensive mastermind who just does not get enough credit for being an offensive mastermind for 10 plus years now, it seems like. So hey, we'll see what happens. Maybe he knows the exact type of guy he's looking for, and Ian Book fits that bill. Let's get right into it with their 1st round pick. Peyton Turner ends up being a 1st round pick, and I was a surprise. I really didn't even have him really on my radar for top into the 2nd round, let alone going at the beginning of the 1st. Definitely a shock. Jeff Ireland is kind of the main guy when it comes to the scouting department in there now. He's the ex-Dolphins GM, who I'm not a big fan of as a Dolphins fan, but that's a whole nother story. It's a very surprising move. He does value physical ability, athleticism, all those things, and he has that. And Peyton Turner, he checks both of the main boxes that a Jeff Ireland, I think, likes. 3-year starter, so you have the starts there, and then great athleticism. And I do think he will be a scheme fit for the Saints here. I will say, I thought his pass rush moves weren't special. Poor pad level all around. I didn't think a disruptive athlete by any means, especially playing in a smaller school. You'd like to see disruption at a high level to be a 1st round pick from Houston. The last one we saw went to Buffalo, and he was the definition of disruptive, and even he's struggling in the NFL. Hey, we'll see what happens with Peyton Turner. You never want to judge him based on the helmet or the jersey or anything. So I don't even think that's fair to say. We'll see, man. I'm not gonna sit here and have all the answers. I was surprised that a Joe Tryon, a Jason Oweh went after Peyton Turner. I was surprised that that the Saints would value him over one of those other guys. Both of them, by the way, went 1st round, and they were the last 2 picks of the 1st round back to back. So yeah, listen, it is what it is. I don't really have a good answer for it. I'm not going to pretend to now. It was an interesting pick. We'll see what happens with it. We'll move right on. Like I said earlier, it does fill a need with a Trey Hendrickson leaving. You got Marcus Davenport in there, who I think has gotten better, but he had the injury last year that really slowed them down. Their defensive line just got beat up down the stretch last season. So I do think they definitely needed to add another piece there. Obviously, with losing a big piece of that defense, they definitely needed to. Moving on, the pick in the 2nd round, another guy I wasn't in love with in this range. Pete Warner, linebacker out of Ohio State. And again, this does fill another need. You watch them go Zach Bond last year, now they're going Pete Warner. They're adding, early and often, in the first 3 rounds, they are picking up linebackers 2 years in a row now. So they certainly see that position as a position of need that has not been fixed yet. I look at him as a guy who's versatile. He played, all over that defense. He played in a lot of different spots. He's a good coverage linebacker. Is really, really good movement skills. I think that's the positive you're going to have about him. He is a guy. He is going to be the guy that you're going to ask to cover the running back out of the backfield, to cover, maybe not the tight end because he's 6'3", 283. I don't know if he could cover a guy who's 6'5", 250, 260 running a slant. I don't know if he matches up very well against that guy. Maybe we'll see. That just depends. My biggest issue with him is his strength of the point of the attack. So his overall play strength is definitely a concern. So I don't know how much you trust him against tight ends. That's a total side point. I'm sorry. And then questions against the run. Yeah, I don't think this is a guy that I'm drafting to. I'm not playing him on first downs. I'm not. This is my nickel package linebacker. That's what he is, and that's why I'm so surprised he went second round. Yeah, I saw him as a guy who had limited availability. I thought he would be a day 3 kind of guy who you could bring in on nickel dime packages that will be that linebacker, because he is a linebacker. He doesn't, I don't think, have the range to ever move on to safety, but he is that new age linebacker, right? So hey, there's some value there. There certainly is. I do see him as limited, so that's like my big takeaway. And I'm not in love with him, but I think the Saints, hey, they're looking at the Buccaneers. They're looking at Tom Brady in their division. They're saying, hey, we need a guy who can cover these slants. We need a guy who is pretty good in coverage, can play in zone coverages, and we're not worried about. And I think that was a big thing. Certainly an upgrade from that perspective, from like an Alex Anzalone, and even a Zach Bond. I don't think Zach Bond, that's not really what Zach Bond does either. So definitely some value there. We'll see how he progresses, and we'll see how he does coming out of Ohio State. Hey, there's been some hits at Ohio State from linebacker lately, and especially in like that mid second, third round. The Dolphins specifically have hit on a couple. So I don't hate it. But let's move on to the third round. They take a Paulson Adebo out of Stanford and a cornerback out of Stanford. Before we talk about him, I do want to just touch on the trade that they made. They traded up with the Broncos, moving up from 98 and 105 to 76 overall to grab Paulson Adebo. So basically had some of the last picks in the third round moved all the way up to grab their guy. And I think that was a good move. Like usually, like I don't love the draft value, and it's not technically great value. Like this is a good trade if they were able to get the Broncos to throw in a 6th or a 5th or something like that to make the trade a little bit more viable. But hey, they move up 22 spots, in day 2 range. It's kind of what it costs, to be totally honest. It costs a 4th, and they happen to have a compensatory 3rd that they could throw in. But they got a guy who had no business being there in the second. This is my favorite player of their first 3 picks. He would be my highest graded of their first 3 picks. Paulson Adebo is a guy I didn't think was getting out of the second round. I didn't. I look at him, great length, ball hawk, great instincts. Now, somewhat stiff, and that is certainly an issue for a guy who's 6'1", 198 pounds. Yeah, the stiffness is definitely going to be a problem. Poor change of direction too. So I do think he is limited, and that's my big thing. He's a boundary corner. I'm not bringing him in nickel. I'm not asking him to deal with super twitchy, quick athletes and all those things. But there is a ton of value for a guy who can play on the outside, and I think he has the straight line speed. It's just the he does have stiff hips. He doesn't flip his hips quickly as much as you would like, and I think that's why he was still there in the third round, to be totally fair. But from an athletic standpoint, yeah, he's a very, very good athlete. Really, the first 3 guys that we got, the first 3 guys on their board, great athletes. From an athletic standpoint, I mentioned Jeff Ireland, the Saints. It seems like they really like athletes. They really like guys that are premium specimens, I guess I would say, and that's okay. If that's the type of guys they look for, that's the type of guys they certainly got in this draft, especially early on. This is just, I love this pick. I really do. I think this is a guy who is going to start day 1. He's the guy I feel the most confident is going to start day 1. I really do. I of their first 3 picks, I like him the most. Let's go ahead and move on to some of my final thoughts. We're going to do my best and worst move here, and my best move is Paulson Adebo. I already mentioned it. I talked about it. That was my favorite player, just getting Paulson Adebo. And honestly, usually, like, I don't like the trade up. Like, usually I'm a big draft value guy, and I do think the Saints gave up a good bit to go get this guy. I really do. Like, I mean, to be honest, in a vacuum, the trade isn't good, but I don't care, because I think they were looking at the board, they were looking at a need, and they said, you know what, our need matches the board, and it matches the value. We're willing to go whoever we could get at the back end of the third round to go up and get their guy. You know, at the end of the day, you gotta love that. You gotta like that the Saints, they're not afraid to trade up. They are the team that, hey, we will go get the guy that we want. They do fall in love and they go for it. And hey, that's a different way than some other teams approach the draft, but I love it. I think the teams like the Saints really give you that, like, they make things exciting, because they're trading up every year, it seems like. I know, I mean, it just seems like every year they're giving up picks later, they're doing whatever they can to move up and go get their guy. I love that. I really do. Just from a draft fan perspective and those kind of things. But moving on, you know, my worst move, it is taking an Ian Book in the fourth round. I didn't value him anywhere close to the fourth round. I thought he had a chance to go sixth, seventh round. I remember talking on my podcast, Between the Pylons podcast. Check it out, by the way, if you're interested. I know if you're a Saints fan, you're probably not going to, because I haven't been very nice to your draft class. But I was talking with my buddy Jacob, who I do the podcast with every week, and we were talking about Ian Book. It came up. He mentioned, you know, that Notre Dame fans were pushing the Ian Book narrative that he was going to go second, third round. I thought that was crazy. I really did. I thought it was nuts. Like, there's no way he goes anywhere close to the third round, and he did. He went somewhere kind of close to the third round, and I was wrong a little bit. I was totally wrong from my perception, my thought process. I know I mentioned it early on, and I'm going to bring it up again. I just didn't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it with the quarterbacks you have on roster. You know, even if you get, again, don't count Taysom Hill as a quarterback, you still had Jameis Winston and Trevor Siemian. Is Ian Book going to beat out Trevor Siemian? Maybe. I guess he could. I guess, you know, especially if you count in, you know, the cost of a Ian Book versus Trevor Siemian. I don't know how much they're paying Trevor Siemian. I'll be totally honest. I didn't look that up, and I'm just kind of thinking this in the moment. Maybe if they're paying Trevor Siemian more than like vet minimum, it's maybe worth it just to go get the cheaper guy. I can see that. That's really the only way. I don't know. I just don't get. I wasn't high on Ian Book. Again, I think he's a guy. Maybe he fits what Sean Payton's looking for. I guess kind of, but I mean, no, not really. I don't see. I don't. The thing is, Sean Payton has had Drew Brees his entire career essentially, other than this past year with backups and stuff. So like, I don't have a good feel for like exactly what Sean Payton's looking for in a quarterback, because he's had Drew Brees, and I didn't look at Ian Book at any point and think, oh, that could be Drew Brees. Like, never. I never saw that. Maybe other people did. I didn't. So I'll leave it at that. That's just my take. Fourth round, at the very least, I would hope most people are going to agree that fourth round was pretty early for an Ian Book. I certainly thought so. Moving on to my grades, and I do my grades a little bit different. I break it down into 3 tiers: players, draft value, and needs. So first tier, players, I'm giving it a D+. And the reason it's not an F is Paulson Adebo. It was actually almost an F. But I looked down, I was like, no, I really like Paulson Adebo. I thought he was like a mid-second round pick. I thought he had a chance to go top 50. He ended up not going top 50, obviously, but I still really liked it. And you know, he falls all the way to the 12th pick in the third round. That's pretty crazy to me. That was very, very surprising, you know, to go that far. But you know, I other than that, yeah, I didn't love their draft class. I just didn't love the guys they got. I didn't look at it really any of the names they got and was impressed by it by any means. So yeah, D+, that's the best I can do. I'm sorry, guys. And then draft value, I'm giving it a D. Yeah, the draft value wasn't good. Let's just leave it at that. Ian Book could have gone in the 6th round. I'm so certain of that. You know, Paulson Adebo was great value. Again, that's why it's not an F. Pete Warner, I didn't see as a 2nd round linebacker. I certainly didn't. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that grade. Moving on to needs, I think they did all right attacking needs. I think that was the theme of their draft. I'm still giving it a B+, because I actually thought like wide receiver. I think wide receiver 2 is a need. I really do. I've seen enough from the Saints offense. You got Michael Thomas, who has been pretty okay to pretty great. He was just okay last year. Now, granted, he was hurt and he came back and all those things. We'll give him the pass. We'll say he was just hurt this past year and he'll be great next year. That's certainly a viable option. Beyond that, I mean, it almost feels like it's similar to a Green Bay situation where you have Adams, who's the dude, and then everybody else are just guys, and I know, people want Traquan Smith to be the guy. He just he's not stepped up, in my opinion. And maybe Saints fans will disagree with me. I certainly know there's some love for Traquan Smith. I know there's some other names on that roster that people are excited about, but there are no proven commodities. And to me, when you can say that about a certain position group, especially a position like wide receiver, I would have liked them to go a little bit earlier than the 7th round, one of the last picks in the 7th round, getting a wide receiver out of South Alabama. Didn't love that pick. I just didn't. So, and granted, I never watched him or anything, so maybe he's awesome. I don't know. We'll see. But beyond that, yeah, other than that, I did think they hit all their needs, so I was good beyond that. And then the other reason why I probably didn't give it an A is I didn't think quarterback was a need in the 4th round. But I've hit that already. But all right, guys, that's all I have. Let me know what you think about the Saints draft class. Leave in the comments below. I've been trying to reply to everybody. If you did enjoy this video, hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm. And if you enjoy this kind of content in general, hit the subscribe button. I'll be doing this all year, 24/7, 365. It's going to be draft. It's going to be NFL. It's going to be a little bit of college. I'm going to have film breakdowns. I'm going to have where they fit. All of these things. Got a lot of stuff planned. So if you're interested in stuff like that, hey, hit that subscribe button and follow the journey with me, guys. Really close to hitting 1,000 subs. So I'd love for you to be a part of that as well. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.